have the Macavity Arms MA2 30 caliber PCP air rifle out today. I had this bad boy on pre-order. I think I was going just about 3 months it took to get this thing in. I've had it about a week and I started putting it through its paces, but so far all I've done with it is run pellets. Haven't touched slugs yet. We're just gonna focus on pellets today. So far this thing it's a laser beam with pellets, so I think you'll be satisfied with today's video. It's incredibly accurate for what it is. I'm sure with slugs in my next video with this, it's gonna be crazy at 100 yards. I'm sure it's gonna match the Gauntlet 30, no doubt. Let's go over the MA2 real quick. 3,600 PSI fill on this cylinder. I wish it went up to 4,500 like the Gauntlet, but unfortunately it does not. You'll get about 2 mags. The third mag you're gonna run in just a little bit under the regulator pressure. This ships to you with a moderator, but I would highly suggest replacing that. I went with a Donnie FL Ronin. You don't need a moderator adapter. This will thread directly in to the MA2. This also came with a little nipple cover. I took that off and just replaced it with one of my own. That doesn't ship with it. Also, the MA2 takes standard AR-15 grips. I swapped out the stock grip for this Boyd's. Speaking of the stock, I left that stock. Honestly, this thing does the job. There's really not much you can complain about this adjustable stock. The MA2 uses a side cocking lever to manipulate the action. I have to say this is a very smooth cocking side lever, but the only negative is that there's nothing really to hold it in place once it's cocked. So if you lean it forward a little bit, it's gonna fall forward, and then it's gonna block your ability to actually insert magazines. Now also in this video, we're gonna be going over these Vector Optics. I have a Scrapper 1x22 red dot, and then I have a Paragon 3x18 Magnifier. They made a few suggestions on optics they wanted to set out, but I went specifically with this red dot and magnifier because I wanted to set up kind of a poor man's ACOG. Now, I have an ACOG. I actually have 2 of them. They're an incredible sight. This being 1/3 the cost of one ACOG, you could literally get 3 of these setups, the red dot and the magnifier, for the price of one ACOG. I've been putting this to the test a little bit before doing this video. I think you're gonna be impressed with this optic setup. It's in combination with the MA2, this thing is a laser beam. I hope you'll be satisfied with that. Now, we also have this Picatinny rail down here, which is gonna come in very handy today because we have the Manbilly tripod that we're gonna be trying out today. With that so far, in combination with how light this thing is, it's an incredible, stable setup. It's like I'm on like a turret or something. You just point and click. That's what it feels like to me. We're gonna get started, do some tests, the usual, and then we'll just go from there. For the pellets today, we're gonna be using these AEA 45 grain 30 caliber. The FX pellets that I really like can no longer be found. I'm switching to these because of the availability. And if I'm gonna be honest, these AEA pellets are some of the nicest pellets I've seen to date. I'm kind of bummed still, but at least we have another option, and these things are really good. First things first, we have to make sure that this MA2 is sighted in. So let's use this Manbilly carbon fiber shooting tripod. I actually really like this tripod. I think it's gonna replace my shooting stick, which is kind of a bummer, but this thing's just, it's much better than the one that I had. So I had no problem accepting this and using it in videos because I think it's actually a pretty good product. It's very stable. This thing's just sitting in there, no issues. Granted, I think you can put, I think it says up to 44 pounds. This is about probably 8 with everything on it, so not pushing the limits there. Let's get this sighted in. We're right around 30 yards. Oh, let me show you filling this real quick. The clearance is a little tight with this fill trigger, but normally that would not be getting in the way. But just as a heads up in case you have a fill trigger, it's very tight with the suppressor on it. So I'm using a transfer tank and the line's already open. We're using this fill trigger. The fill trigger is an amazing piece to have. That way you don't have to bleed your line every single time. You just pull this trigger and we start filling. And just like that, filled. I highly suggest getting a transfer tank just because the ease of filling is, there's nothing faster than a transfer tank. Going from a compressor and filling the bottle directly is going to be much slower, and you're going to put unnecessary stress on your unit running it over and over and over again. Versus you run it for 15 minutes, You get a transfer tank that's going to last you, depending on the gun, you can get upwards of probably 10, 20 fills. One long fill versus filling, you know, every cylinder versus a tank. Just throwing that out there. Oh, I forgot to mention, these are the magazines. It comes with 3 8-rounders, and unless you're tethering, I don't really see a point to buying more, because in 3 mags, you got to refill the thing. So once you run out of the mags, you're refilling the air, and while that's going on, you can just refill the mags. Let's go for the top middle headshot. That bullseye is a little bit smaller. All right, we just need to go up just a tiny little bit. We'll do the top right headshot after. See what I'm saying here? 30 yards with pellets. An absolute sniper of a pellet gun. Let's lose the tripod. Let's do this offhand. We'll go for that center bullseye. Wherever you point this thing, that's where it's gonna go. The trigger on this, very nice. It's actually pretty crisp. I haven't touched this at all. Everything on this gun is completely stock, except for the suppressor and the grip. Other than that, I haven't made any adjustments to the power, tuning, nothing. It's just bone stock. I've been getting those groups every single time I fired this thing since I've had it. I've probably put 15 mags through so far. They're all like that. Let's do a ballistics gel test, and we'll do a chronograph test real quick. Okay, I have one 50 grain slug. I want to see what that does for penetration versus the pellets. I don't even know what brand it is. The box is unmarked. Then after that, we have 3 pellets. So let's record the velocity, see what it does. 855 feet per second. 891 feet per second. 894 feet per second. Didn't record that last one. Let's see if the Pro Chrono. The slug is extracted. It's the only one that didn't make it through because of the expansion. Let me show you the difference, how it started versus where it's at now. I'd say that's pretty decent expansion. It was enough to actually prevent it from traveling through all the way. So compared to those pellets, it's doing its job. All right, this should be pretty easy. Let's drop a Texas Star real quick offhand. Just like that. Those targets down there, fresh ones, are at 60 yards. Let's see what kind of a group we can get with that Manbilly tripod. See how tight it can get. Okay, we're at 60 yards. 8 more pellets. Freshly charged air cylinder. Let's go for the center bullseye. Do a group there and see if we need to adjust. All right, that looked pretty good. Let's go for top middle headshot. Let's go check out those groups real quick. Okay, so this is the reason why I wanted that magnifier on that red dot. I like red dots, but once we get to a certain range, I find that they're not as precise as I want them to be. Pairing that thing with a magnifier has really changed my opinion on these, because once you get a little bit of zoom, you can turn that red dot down a little bit and dial things in a little bit better. It's hard to see sometimes, but when you get it really, really fine, I find you can get much more precise shots out of it, and that's what we're doing here. That top section, that's 2 and 2 together. I just need to bump my sight down just a tiny little bit, and we're pretty good. I'm surprised the shot is, for some reason, it's higher than it was at 30 yards. Interesting. Let's do a 2x4 test, see if it penetrates. All right, 2x4 time. Let's go for in between the target and the table. I want to shoot that bare spot there so we can see the camera on the back if it penetrates through all the way, which I think it will. I think that proved it. Let's go investigate though. Well, either that gun is really blowing holes through this thing, or maybe the wood is kind of like soft or something, because those holes that it blow out the back are gigantic. All right, I got about 5 or 7 sodas. Let's blow those up real quick. After we're done with that, let's do a know your limits. I'll show you how precise this thing can get, hopefully. These sodas are gonna be pretty easy, or seltzers I should say. We definitely don't need that tripod. Just go right to left. I don't like that spray paint looking at me. I have the MA2 out at about 30 yards. Let's try out this know your limits target. I think this thing is gonna absolutely rip through this. This thing is an absolute beast. The target on the far right is 1/4 inch wide. Bear with me here. Oh, just to the right. Just to the left. Okay, so that's the knowing your limits target. 2 of them, down to 1/4 inch on that last one. And we were probably only off by just a fraction on that last target. This thing is an absolute sniper, and that's with pellets. So, stepping this thing up to slugs, when I bring this back out, assuming that I found the best slug for this, is going to be absolutely fantastic. Let's do a 70-yard Texas Star. 70-yard Texas Star. 2 fur. Aw, 1 miss. I hope you can forgive me for that 1 miss. Let's stretch this thing out to 100 yards. Let's do an 8-round group and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna aim right for the neckline, see where it drops. Almost hit bullseye. All right, let's go check that out real quick and then we're gonna wrap up. Aside from these 2 right here, that group's actually not bad. Now, with that red dot, even with the magnifier, that was probably pushing the limit here, for me at least. I don't really like a red dot probably past, like, for precise aiming, I don't really like it past like 50 yards. This is double that distance with that magnifier, so that magnifier is really helping out. The dot, pretty small, it was taking up this whole section here in the neck area. It was literally as wide as this neck area. So that's exactly what I was aiming for. So technically, I don't know if these are flyers or maybe I was just left or right a little bit too far. I'm gonna hold that against me right now. I think the gun is definitely capable of better accuracy than that, especially with slugs, but we'll just have to wait and see for that. I think if I threw a scope on it, I'd get a little bit better accuracy, just being able to see the exact point that I'm aiming at, not like this like 4-inch group here. I'm honestly very happy with that at 100 yards. I would never be able to get that group with a standard red dot, so I'm really liking that magnifier. All right, I'll meet you back there. And that's gonna wrap things up with the Macavity MA2 30 caliber PCP air rifle. Compared to the Gauntlet 30, this thing is honestly, it's like its little brother or something. It's lighter weight, a little bit less power, but being able to point this thing is just so much easier. It's like an extension of your arm. Very lightweight, very easy to maneuver. The accuracy with pellets, I've shown in this video that it's pretty much as capable as you are until you get to about 100 yards. We'll have to update that part later. But within 60 or so yards, you're talking this thing is just your little pellet sniper rifle. My only complaint, other than this charging handle not really, you know, locking open, it falls down and will prevent you from actually loading in magazines. I just wish the cylinder could take 24 regulated shots. You could turn the power down just a little bit, detune the hammer spring a little bit, and you probably could get the 24 shots. But the power level it's at right now is honestly, it seems perfect. I'd leave it as it is. I wish they could just add a little bit more to this and then give you those 24 shots. Because today it seemed like I was getting just shy of maybe 18 rounds, and then we're under the regulator pressure, which this one's set to 2000 psi and you have a 3600 psi fill. So technically it doesn't need a bigger cylinder. It could just have a higher psi fill limit, and then you'd achieve the goal right there. Now, combining it with the suggestion I had from Vector Optics for my magnified red dot, I honestly have to say this setup is very nice compared to the ACOGs that I have. It seems like it is the poor man's ACOG. It's not as clear as an ACOG. That would be very hard to achieve, but I'm telling you, this thing it's very clear. The red dot sight on its own, it's just it's like a standard red dot sight. In combination with the magnifier though, that's where this thing really shines. If you're using a red dot and you want to just take it up a bit, get a magnifier and let me know how that works for you, because compared to what I'm capable of, and now adding this, it's just like a whole new world. For being under $400, including the optic and the magnifier, I honestly say that has to be a pretty good deal, because you could buy 3 of these for the price of 1 ACOG. So if you're looking for a cheaper route, but you don't want to spend all that money, I don't think you can go wrong with this. Last but not least, this shooting tripod has been really good so far. It's not cheap by any means, but it's very good for what it is. Extremely lightweight, it's very stable. I've gone from those crappy Amazon basic tripods for my camera to where I am at now, and the difference between tripods is the low budget ones are honestly pretty garbage. You step things up to a mid-tier and it seems like it's the most professional thing by comparison. You'd be amazed. This thing, compared to my other tripod, which was half the price, it's not even in question. It makes that other one look like it cost 50 bucks or something. It's the comparison between the two is just night and day. The legs and the base on this stretch out so far. You don't have to worry about this thing falling over, because the wind here will throw these things over. It doesn't take much. This thing plants into the ground. This thing has spikes on the bottom of the feet where you can actually dig that in if you need to. So you have some extra options with this. The head on this is actually very nice. It's really heavy duty. If you get a cheaper tripod, the head is going to be it's going to be crappy on it. It's not going to support the weight. Things are going to fall over when you're not looking. Believe me, that almost happened to me on my other tripod. So be careful of that. If you're looking for a buy once, cry once, I highly suggest the Manbilly tripod. I don't think you can really complain about it. When you're sitting there with it, it's just like you're at a turret. That's what I'm going to call it. It's a gun turret tripod, because it's just incredibly stable. You just point and shoot. If you're looking for a poor man's ACOG, I don't think you can go wrong with this Vector Optics red dot and magnifier combination. If you're looking for the Gauntlet 30's little brother, the MA2, I don't think you can go wrong. All right, see ya.